we've got huge news. Denard Robinson is possibly going to be the brand new running backs coach taking over for Mike Hart. We are going to talk about that. My gosh, that's huge news. And I think the Oscars are on right now too. Did you tell me that right, Matt? So people, if you're chiming in here, if you're chiming in during the Oscars, we are extremely flattered.
We're proud of you because you should. Don't watch the Oscars.
I usually find out the Oscars already happened on like the Monday after I start seeing headlines. But yeah, awesome. So Matt, how's it going with you?
Doing all right. I'm ready for Michigan to have a completely new coaching staff this year, and it's completely and utterly shit the bed, and it's going to be glorious to watch.
On defense, anyway. On offense, I mean, yeah, I guess a lot of new faces there too, to be honest. But Jason, how's it going with you?
Great. I have 5 minutes before I have to get onto my podcast to finish doing a tribute to Blackberry Smoke drummer Brett Turner.
That's right. Yeah, Jason has a really awesome podcast himself called All Things Blues and Southern Rock. The link is in the description if anyone's interested. Love that kind of music. But yeah, going on here pretty soon. We were actually going to do a little lightning round of questions for between Ohio State and Michigan and let Jason actually moderate that. But however, before we get started with that, if you are as obsessed with us with this rivalry as we are, if your Thanksgiving is pretty much ruined, it keeps you from being able to be thankful after Thanksgiving if your team loses in this rivalry, please subscribe to the channel. We would greatly appreciate it. Just before we get into that, just earlier this morning, weirdly, I woke up thinking, hey, we should actually have the Ohio State-Michigan game on Thanksgiving Day. But then as quickly as that came in, it went out because that would be a disaster. Can you imagine? It would destroy Thanksgiving.
Well, Michigan always has to watch the Lions, Nate. That's the problem. So yeah. You'll pull from your audience that you can't do that.
And that's painful enough. But Jason, let's do the lightning round.
And it's really going to have to be a lightning round because I've got about 3 minutes. All right. All right. For both of you, Matt, we're going to start with you first. Michigan's record next year, what's it going to be?
I think that they are going to be, I don't know about the bowl game, but I think they're going to have 4 losses in the regular season.
It's not terrible. Hey. I say I'm hoping for no less than 3. It's really early to tell right now, but
he didn't ask you to hope. He asked you what's going to happen.
I'm predicting 9-3.
9-3.
Then we slip right into the playoffs because we've got a ridiculously hard schedule.
Okay. All right, Nate, we're going to go to you on this one. Did Ohio State have a better offseason or Michigan have a better or worse offseason?
Oh, gosh, no. I would say Ohio State had a better offseason. To the point where they upgraded some positions they were already strong at, like running back and safety. And I still think Ohio State.
Michigan, you think Ohio State's had a stronger offseason is bigger than Michigan's disaster of an offseason?
Yeah, totally. Michigan has good coaching now. They've got a system. I think they'll be able to. I think they'll be able to bounce. I think the biggest issue with Michigan in 2024 is going to be their schedule. If we played Ohio State's schedule, we'd be in the playoffs for sure. I'd say that would be a lock, but we don't. Matt, to you.
I think that's a fucking absolutely fantastic question, Jason. It's really tough. Like,
that's a good question.
I know. Like, I honestly, as much as I follow these teams, I'm having a really hard time answering that. I think I might have to lean towards it hurting Michigan. I think it's a worse offseason for Michigan, and it's really close because our offseason has been fantastic. But I just think you lose your offensive coordinator, your defensive coordinator, your head coach. Your running back coach, just all these other coaches. Plus, we have like all the the impending doom of all the sanctions potentially still on the table. It's just. I mean, you couldn't get much worse than that.
Yeah, man, I think I'm with you. It's been such a disaster for Michigan, particularly because they won the national championship. Like, this is about as bad as it can be. I guess the only thing that would make it worse if they got sanctions or suspensions or had to give up some wins.
Yeah, and all these questions, everyone else, please, in the chat or whatever, in the comments, feel free to answer them.
Let's hear what you guys think, because I'm going to come back. I'm going to see this chat, guys. I'm going to see the comments. And then next time I'm on the show, we can help answer them because I got to go. Hey, everybody. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Nate. Check out All Things Blues in Southern Rock. We're doing a tribute to Britt Turner, the drummer of Blackberry Smoke that just died last week. Coming out tomorrow. We're finishing our interviews tonight. So
see ya.
All right.
Bye, Jason.
Bye.
Jason did not pay us to be able to do that, by the way. Just telling YouTube and the sponsored ads, that was not paid for. That's too funny. But yeah, I think that was a really good question. I mean, let's hang on that for a second. Losing coaches, that's really, you can't blame off season. I don't think graduations really count in that. I think it's really like bad things that happened
Well, I mean, a lot of because of NIL, like all of the people coming back for Ohio State is part of the good thing. And then Saban retiring was another huge thing because we got, an offensive lineman and a safety and a quarterback from them. I mean, 3 really, really great players. Well, 2 great players and 1 good player. And so, I mean, that alone was monstrous for us. And then we had, getting Chip Kelly, I think is a good for an offensive coordinator. I don't like him as a head coach. Apparently, a lot of people don't like him as a person. They think he's pretty mean to everyone. But as far as coordinating an offense, he's pretty good. I was talking to an Eagles fan last night at a party, and he was saying one of the things that he didn't like about Chip Kelly as when he was coaching the Eagles was he would try to spend so much time with the hurry up and scoring quickly that their defense was on the field like 40 minutes a game and getting tired. And so you had to have, you had to moderate that a little bit. You had to find a way to milk clock too.
Yeah, very true. And yes, Denard did start eating at least maybe like 12 cupcakes per day. He went on the high carb diet apparently. But yeah, I guess he spent all his life being in shape and being so fast, being shoelace. It's like, forget it. I'm just gonna go eat donuts. Hilarious. But yeah, question for you, Matt, though. Like around that, Denard Robinson taking over, possibly taking over. That's just a rumor, I think, at this point. But what do you think? Do you think Michigan or Ohio State's going to have their better running game this year? Or do you think Michigan or Ohio State will outrush?
Well, I think even though, I mean, it really, a lot of that, I think, partially depends on who the starting quarterback is. Like if Will Howard, apparently Will Howard's hasn't been doing great passing the ball, but, he does have a lot of experience and he's a good runner. And, if we have him with Judkins and Trey, I think that's going to be just a ridiculous rushing attack. So I don't think that question should be really, is Michigan going to still have a good running game, not better than Ohio State? Because I don't think there's a chance that it's better than Ohio State this year. Because we have a lot of linemen coming back too. So not that they were good, but linemen is one of the few positions where you really need experience on offensive and defensive line. Like the more years you get, it really helps. Mm-hmm. So obviously, I'm still thinking we're going to get one more upgrade in the spring portal at offensive line, at least one. So, but even without that, I still think, just so much talent on the running back and quarterback running that we should just be an absolute crazy running team this year.
You think, and it depends on your offensive line too. I mean, yeah. If you got your guys back, maybe upgrade that. And the offseason's not over. We just said who's had a worse offseason or a better offseason. Mm-hmm. The offseason's not really over yet. I mean, it's not over really until after the portal closes and you get all your transfers in. So we don't even know what it's going to look like yet. It's not.
And also, as far as like the offensive line, like our offensive line started slow, was never really bad at pass protection throughout the year. They started slow, and then once like when they changed their blocking schemes mid-season, that coincided with TreyVeyon Henderson starting to do a much better job, and they did really poorly against Missouri because Missouri has number one has a really good defense, and number two, it was our backup quarterback and our third string quarterback, and so that's a little bit different than in a normal situation where you have your starter all year. So. Yeah. Offensive lines look a lot worse when you have a new guy in there that doesn't know what they're doing.
That's very true. You've got quarterback, and that's one of the things that, questions about Michigan. It's a complicated question too because styles of offense Like Chip Kelly coming in there, he's going to really punch the running game up. That's going to be upgraded. Chip Kelly coming in, Ohio State's going to upgrade their running game, like by far on that. But it again, it's just like 8 Mile said, it's going to determine on the line play for sure. But it's complicated because of styles too. I mean, Michigan might have more carries than Ohio State just because of the way they play. And you have to think that with a brand new quarterback coming in, no matter who that is, and the fact that both teams have an awesome defense, Michigan and Ohio State are going to both have a top 5 defense, I think, next year, which makes me think, Michigan better not waste that defense. They better go get a quarterback, because if they don't go get a quarterback that they know that can play, they're wasting a top 5 defense, which is just criminal. But it's just style of play too. Michigan might outrush, and they might outrush Ohio State. I think Ohio State's going to have the better yards per carry though, because those two guys are awesome, TreyVeyon and Quinshon. And
plus a running quarterback
left and right, they may outrush. They may outrush Michigan too, but Michigan's going to pound it again this year. There's no reason they're not going to pound it and do the same thing they did last year. They just need a quarterback.
Yeah, but people couldn't just try to stop the run game. They had to respect the quarterback, because JJ is a really good college quarterback.
Yeah, he is, and he's going to be probably it's looking like he's going to be a top 15 overall draft pick. So it's not like a lot of people think, oh, well, he was just a game manager, you can plug any quarterback in there. No way. I totally disagree with that. I think that like that run game would stifle sometimes. Sometimes teams would just gang up and they'd figure out the running game and stop it. And they needed JJ to come in on 3rd and 8. How often did he do that? 3rd and 8 and make a play and keep the drive alive. And if they don't have someone to do that, it's going to be rough for sure.
Yeah, so that's why it'll be interesting to see, if you guys pick up a quarterback in the portal too, or who steps up this year. I mean, that's huge question mark, really, for any of the top teams this year. Like the Michigan quarterback is one of the biggest question marks.
Yeah, for sure. And you alluded to this a little bit. Devin Brown, there are some reports I was seeing that he's outperforming Will Howard.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's not just reports, just watch him throw. It's pretty obvious.
Well, yeah. But I guess when you've looked at Devin Brown and the chances he's had, it hasn't looked pretty.
Yeah, plus the guy's Mr. Glass. Like, that's why I almost don't, I'm not going to root against him, but I would be really hesitant if he won the job, just because like the guy just gets hurt if you sneeze on him.
Devin Brown, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's just always hurt. So.
Yeah, very true. And I mean, it's going to be he would have to be like light years better than Will Howard, having like 2 or 3 years experience starting.
Yeah.
Then you're just going to put a guy who's never really started in and hasn't looked good when he did. He would have to be like light years in practice better for you to slot Devin Brown in. So that's a pipe dream, I think. So it sounds like you actually agree with that. You think it's going to be Will Howard?
Yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully his passing gets a little bit better. I mean, from the highlights I saw, it looked fine, but man, from the spring practice, his arm looked really weak. So I don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah, his
throws had no power.
And I think the media shots were kind of, they were exploiting that a little bit. Like they would show a pass with not Devin Brown, Will Howard, and he'd throw it and it would be a terrible pass out of bounds. He looks like he airmailed it. It would have like a high arc and it was wobbly, looked like a duck. And then Devin Brown would go in there and just throw strikes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But hey, I mean, that's the batting cage, right? You can go into the batting cage and hit.
And also, like that was like the first couple of days. I'm not going to put too much emphasis on the first couple of days of spring practice where Devin Brown has been in the system for a couple of years, whereas, this is the first time, even though Will Howard is the veteran, it's still his first time at Ohio State. And so he's going to be maybe a little nervous or rusty or whatever, what have you. It's, it's the first week of practice.
Yeah. Yeah, very true. And what were you saying about Chip Kelly? He's not someone people like. I've never heard.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of stories about how everyone hates him.
Oh, really?
He's just it's an asshole to a lot of the players, I guess. Like he's not a very liked individual.
Wow.
This was before he came to Ohio State. as a coach, as a head coach.
I'm seeing a trend this year anyway. It seems like for both teams, we're getting kind of some old crusty coordinators on offense and defense, old crusty coordinators.
I think Bill O'Brien was the same way. I don't think people liked him either.
Yeah, except Michigan's doesn't have an old crusty offensive coordinator. Yeah. They've got a new one, but they leveled him up from a quarterback coach. But it does seem like, and then they went out and got Wink Martindale. Is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he might be awesome. It's like these guys that want to coordinate an offense or a defense, but they don't want to do anything else. You know, I don't see like him recruiting very much. It's going to leave it to like the position coaches maybe to go out and recruit.
So are you surprised that Mike Hart left? Because Denard is not, I don't think, confirmed yet, but Mike Hart did say he was 100% out.
Yeah, and I haven't read up too much on that to see like what the reasoning was. Maybe he was just upset about his station. He didn't want to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just assuming he wasn't offered a coordinator job, so he took off. That's what I'm assuming. I don't know if that's what happened.
Yeah, and quite honestly, I'm hoping it doesn't affect our running backs transferring, because I really love Kalel Mullings. He looked really good last year, and obviously Donovan Edwards. Hopefully, Mike Hart doesn't go somewhere and recruit those guys and come, but I don't think that's going to happen. But
whatever happened with Donovan? Was Edwards hurt at all last year? Because he was terrible all year until the end of the year, and like the last 3 weeks he was good.
I don't think that's an excuse. I think that I don't know what happened to
it's Donovan. Like, how many podcasts did we have talking about how bad he was last year? Like, we all thought coming into the year he was going to be better than Corum, because the previous year he was amazing. Like, his stats were like absurd. He was a huge, big run, big play guy, and now, like, last year he was just trash, and then towards the end of the year he was making all these big plays.
Yeah, the Washington game. I mean, towards the end of the year, literally the last game of the year, he was making all those plays, and against Penn State, he woke up against Penn State.
Did he play well against Alabama too?
He only had maybe a couple runs against Alabama. Okay. It wasn't pretty what he did. It was Washington. But if you're noticing a pattern, he's awesome when he has blown open holes to run through.
Yeah.
And then no one could catch him. But even last year, I was noticing he was weaving. He was using athleticism to just weave through the tackles, through the offensive line, and find places. He was just doing better. But he's more of an explosive guy. He's got to have something blown out for him.
So it's really hard to tell. Like, how do you think he's going to do in 2024 as the full-time starter?
I don't know. It's a contract year for him. It's his last year as a senior, and he's not.
I mean, do you think he's going to get quorum carries this year?
He's going to be the number one running back, I would think. But
I mean, you don't think it's going to be it could be like a 50-50 with Mullings.
It should be. I mean, it really should be a 50-50, because Mullings looked good last year in his spot duty. Now, it's going to have to be good. And we've got a couple of young guys coming up too.
So didn't you guys lose a lot of offensive linemen?
We lost them all. Yes, all the starters. we lost the starting 5, and then you remember when Zach Zinter got hurt, the guy that came in to play tackle, and then they kind of just shuffled a little bit. The guy that came in to be the 6th offensive lineman, he's gone too. So we lost 6 starting offensive linemen.
Could we go back really quick and ask everyone to comment on what Nate came up with the headline today? Is that the most clickbait headline we've had yet? You guys lost every single offensive lineman, and
thanks
your number
for calling
6.
me out. But no, I have a lot of faith in Michigan's offensive line under Sharon Moore, and I know the guys.
Well, he's obviously a great offensive line coach.
I follow the team enough to know that a lot of the guys that are going to be starting this year had a lot of playing time over the past couple of years, and they're going to be. And it is very faith based on my.
So who is the offensive line coach this year? Is he still doing that? Or do you guys hire
Grant Newsom. He was the tight ends coach last year, and so he's been elevated to the offensive line coach. He was an offensive lineman for Harbaugh back in 2015, 2016. Got injured. Real smart dude, apparently. Could have gone into the financial industry and made all his millions, but he decided he wanted to come back and be a coach. So I have high expectations, basically, for Sharon Moore combined with that guy, Grant Newsom. So I do. I have faith. I think they're going to be good. Could be wrong. Could be a little ugly in the beginning, which isn't good because we play Texas, I think, in game 2, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so basically, the way I'm thinking, if you guys can have a solid running game and just average quarterback play, you're not going to lose much. But that's a big if. That quarterback, and replacing a whole line and all the new coaches, and assuming no suspensions. I mean, it's a lot of assumptions.
It is. It is. There's a lot that's happening. The quantity that's happening might be the biggest issue of it all. Just the massive amount of change.
Yeah, it's just huge. Because I mean, there's a difference between coaching on game day and then doing what Harbaugh did. He had to make all the game plans and everything. Moore's never had to do that.
Oh, I'm sure he was part of the game planning, though.
Yeah, no, part of it. But Harbaugh was. You never know how much, behind the scenes, how much the offensive coordinator puts it together versus the head coach. I mean, maybe Moore was doing a lot of it behind the scenes. We don't know. I guess we'll find out. It'll be interesting how much of an impact Harbaugh's game prep, losing that, has. How much of an effect that has, or was he more of like a, just getting guys ready to go and good at evaluating talent and finding good recruits that were underrated. So we don't know what the main aspects of what made him successful, other than, of course, the cheating.
Of course, the cheating. The cheating. Ohio State's a bunch of cheaters too. You guys started tampering with kids. You got a cheating advantage on
allegedly.
No, I mean you could make an argument that Michigan's cheating was a little more useful. Than that. But I think they've paid their dues. I think Michigan has. They paid their dues, and they proved that it wasn't really the sign stealing that actually gave them any kind of advantage, because they beat everyone. So you have that. But in any case, real quick, we've probably got 3 minutes left here. So talk about the defenses really quick. Do you agree Michigan and Ohio State are both going to have a top 5 defense next year?
Oh yeah.
I would say Ohio State's going to be probably, if I was going to,
I think higher than that. I'm thinking top 2. I think that they're both that good. I think they'll both be top 2.
Yeah,
I mean,
the Buckeyes.
Who else is even close at this point?
Georgia, maybe. I don't know.
I don't think that they're returning the amount of starters that we are either.
Maybe they are.
I mean, we're literally returning everyone except for one defensive tackle and 2 linebackers that losing them might be an upgrade.
Yeah, maybe. So for Ohio State, my guess is the question marks and where talent is on the defense anyway. Quibbling. It's going to be defensive tackle and linebacker.
No, linebacker only.
I would say defensive tackle too.
You think? I mean, we have, Hamilton is coming back, and he's more of a run stopping defensive tackle. So, Mike Hall was really good at disrupting, but, not as good as a run stopper. So, we really need that. And, so maybe depth of defensive tackle could be an issue. So that
if you're talking just straight starters, not going into depth, I would say Ohio State has the advantage in the secondary. Because you're full. You know exactly who's playing at every position.
Yeah, I think Michigan might have. How many defensive linemen are you returning?
We lose 2 defensive tackles, and both defensive ends, but they were all rotating so much. No. We don't lose both defensive tackles. We lose 1 defensive tackle. Mason Grant is coming back. And then we lose our defensive ends, who are considered the starters, but they rotated so much. It's almost like there were 6 guys that were starters.
Yeah.
So I think Ohio State wins in that contest in the secondary, because Caleb Downs, of course, and because you have both corners, your safety, the entire secondary set. You know exactly who's playing. It's going to be really good. Michigan, I would say they would be nearly tied if they had the entire secondary set, but we need a corner, and we don't have Caleb Downs back there. Just assuming he's going to be awesome. But I think Michigan probably has a little bit of an edge on the defensive line, only because I think defensive tackle and your defensive ends haven't been as explosive as the expectations have.
Yeah, I would probably give you guys a slight edge or push on defensive line. I think it's going to be really close. But yeah, Michigan might have the edge on that. And then linebackers, you guys will probably – do you guys How many returning linebackers do you have?
Well, we lose 2 linebackers, but we're getting 2 guys that we're basically rotating in there too. Jay-Sean Barnum, and I can't remember the other guy's name, but they were awesome. They were both awesome last year.
Yeah, I mean, Simon played a lot last year, and he's pretty good. And then I think
we have a transfer coming in.
I think CJ Styles. I think Sonny Styles is going to be playing linebacker. That's official. We were all assuming it because he was too big to play safety. So he's pretty much going to be the second linebacker. And so, I mean, I think the linebackers are going to be pretty good. I mean, I don't think they're going to be a weakness. It's just going to be the weakest spot comparatively.
Yeah, very true. And the way Michigan's going to play Ohio State is going to be the exact same way we played you last year. So we're not going to use our receivers basically, but they're just going to go run around. So your awesome secondary has to choke or run around and chase them. And we're just going to try and run the ball and throw the ball to the tight ends. That's going to be, but of course, you already know that's going to happen too. So, and you've got a linebacker that might actually upgrade that unit in, who's the guy that's switching? Styles. Yeah, that's right. He might be a big upgrade. You never know. I mean, playing safety and linebacker is quite a bit different, but I don't know. Talent usually wins out on those.
Yeah. So, I mean, really, the only thing I'm super worried about, I would say a little worried on depth of defensive tackle, just the fact that we have, a little bit of newness at linebacker. This is a little bit of an unknown, but, it's not like they're freshmen coming in here. These are guys that have played a year or two already. And then, the other issue then, of course, is I think tight end is a pretty big issue for me. Like on offense, that's maybe even a bigger. Obviously, quarterback has to be the biggest concern because you just don't know. We don't even know who the starter is going to be. But aside from quarterback, I think losing, our tight ends were bad at blocking last year, but at least we had a good receiver. Farmer Gronk was a great receiver last year. Like he was our number 2 receiver. So losing him, he was just behind Marvin Harrison. He was number 2. Emeka would have been number 2 if he was healthy all year, but he ended up catching. I think he had more receiving yards than any tight end in Ohio State history. Like it was a big year for him, and I don't have any faith in any of the guys we have coming in now. Like I think that maybe Jelani Thurman might be a good blocker because he's huge. He's an athletic freak, but he's only had 1 or 2 catches. Like I don't know what he can do, and Guy Scott Jr. has not done anything. He hasn't been a good blocker or receiver. So the tight end is by far the biggest weakness, in my opinion, on the whole team. We got a guy from OU, but he's more of a blocker, I think.
That's the one position between Michigan and Ohio State.
Yeah, clear advantage.
The one place that Michigan has the advantage.
Yeah. So Michigan has an A+ tight end, A+ a tight end, and we have let's see, maybe a C- or even a D. I don't know. It's looking. I'm really worried about tight ends.
That's funny. Well, hey, we're 28 minutes in, so we'll wrap it up. But thanks everyone for joining. Thanks for jumping on, and we'll see you all later. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we will talk to everyone soon. Go Blue.
Go Bucks.